Festival website. If you want to see what's coming up this week on KPFF, just go to www.
Yeah, we can talk on the camera until the show goes on. It's no problem. That way the people won't be bored and they know we're real people. Yeah, I want you to get that done so they really can see that. Because that shows
most
what
people
kind of guy
don't realize.
Tom was.
Yeah, well, not only Tom, but that board of directors, which
Yeah.
most of them are still there.
My personal opinion is I think that Tom was worried because when we went to the finance, the two of us were together when we were talking about that, he was not happy with what you were asking.
Yeah, I know.
So I think that happened all the way from back then. That's probably a year before he got trespassed.
This is 97.7, Bronx Community Radio Station.
And welcome back. And we're talking about Valley Electric, and this is Andy Alberti, my guest. Go ahead, Andy. Finish that trespass.
So I want to finish that trespass thought here. So a few days later, the five of us were sent a certified letter telling us that we couldn't be on the property. One of the fellows, they mailed it to the wrong address, so he never signed his trespass order. But he found out that they had sent him one and he got a copy, but he never signed it.
Okay.
So technically there were five of us, but only four were actually trespassed.
Okay. Yeah, no, we got to call it, but I want you to finish this trespass.
Okay. So this went on for a while. I had actually Katrine Romanoff personally deliver to Valley Electric a request to every board member individually for a hearing to explain why we received a trespass order when we had not done anything wrong. And I found out when we met with Angela and Ken Dershan, the lawyer, the other day. This is the day that the first raid took place, that evening. We found out that the board was told by Tom Husted that there were physical threats and that my request to have a hearing was too dangerous for them to have me there.
Okay,
Now,
so Tom said that you're too dangerous, you can't allow them to have a hearing.
Not only that, they thought I had been arrested, and it was not me. Not only that, these people that were the board, they have an obligation to the members, to the owners. And I had been in communication with two other CEOs of co-ops that I know, and they told me, how can they possibly tell an owner they can't go on the property without an explanation?
Papa John Pizza.
So they never responded to my request.
Okay.
They just ignored it. And I thought, okay, if that's how the game is going to be played, I'll wait. And eventually, as you know, Tom resigned. Angela Evans was made the, well, actually, they had found another fellow, I think from Ohio, to come in and be the CEO. And then he saw what was going on in my mind, and he decided, I don't need any of that kind of stuff.
And what they said, the rumor was that the place he was coming from offered him a lot more money to stay.
Yeah, he probably went back and begged for his job. So then they appointed Angela Evans, and I have to say, as I said earlier, I believe that Angela Evans is a diversion for all the misdeeds that have been going on behind the scenes under Tom Husted and the current board of directors. When a board of directors looks at me at a meeting and says, I thought you were 40 years old. I thought it was you who had been arrested. I thought you made threats to us. And then somebody pointed you out to me, and I said, is that him? I'm 78 years old, folks. Yeah. Something is rotten in Denmark here, and I have to tell you, there was a co-op in Texas, Pedernales Co-op, and they threw out the board of directors over compensation.
Okay, good. All right, we have a caller. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, Raven Flagman, Anthony.
Hey, buddy, what's cooking?
What is it? I got some news besides what you're talking on, but I had my experience with Valley Electric in 2004, I believe, when they had that sign on the door, no firearms allowed. And I fought it all the way. And I went into a board meeting, even with the sign on the door. I called the cops first, and I said, look, I'm going in with my guns. I'm a part owner here, and I'm going to go in into this board meeting. And the cops assured me, or at least the sergeant on duty, says, we're not going to carry their water for them. Just go in there, Flagman, we ain't going to bust. Gave me a little confidence. There were about 26 people on the street with signs supporting me. Yeah, and most of these people were armed also. And And I went in and I got that sign removed from the door. There were, I think, 5 directors at the time. And they told me they would make a decision after the meeting, and they took the sign down. Then when Houston got in, he demanded the sign be put back on the board, on the door, and they did not invite me back. And that hit the newspapers, that we should have invited the flagman when we did.
Okay, good.
Did you know about that?
No, I didn't.
So that's, you can take that to the bank, as Beretta used to say.
Uh-huh.
All right, here's what I got. The story in the Times newspaper about Barry Dentler's conviction was bogus. I don't know if you read that.
No, I don't get...
He was convicted on the initial complaint by the cops. Nothing about the jury trial, Anthony, that you sat in and I sat in and Louis DeCamio sat in and Dwight Lilly and Paul Miller. Nothing about that.
Right.
Just that he was charged originally. They made him seem like a real bad guy. Now he's coming up to bat against on Thursday on a misdemeanor obstruction of justice in Department A. So I want to let you know on that one.
Okay.
That's the update. Now the second thing is, are you familiar with what happened with Gabriel?
Yes.
I guess it was Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
You're familiar with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I got all of that. You know, the reason why I don't get the Pahrump Valley Times is because my dog is trained and I don't need to put paper on the floor.
I understand. All right, you're right. Chicago is the most corrupt city in the United States of America. I saw it on the news. They had 1,731 convictions of high officials over the last, I think it was about 35, 40 years. They said Chicago beat out Los Angeles for that privilege to be the most corruption. They're even third in the state. Illinois is the third state, most corrupt state in the union. So there you go. And here I'm from Chicago. I moved to Pahrump the whole idea.
Well, yeah, I guess you didn't want to be lonely and be away from your neighborhood, so you just moved to a hotter one.
I think what it is, they see the show and they said, oh yeah, he's corrupt, so he's from Chicago. All right, I'll let you guys get on with this. It's a good show. I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. People keep the faith, power to the people, and thank God we saved them by the 4th time, and let's not hope that let's hope they don't try it again. Way to flag, man. Over and out.
Thanks, Ray. God bless you.
By the way, I ran into Carl Mitchell the other day. He told me how things were going. I was glad to hear it.
Yeah. Okay, so go ahead. I want this trespass thing. I want them to go in. I want you to go all the way to the end on when you got a chance to talk to Angela.
Yeah, so a week before, 2 weeks ago actually, I had called Angela and asked if I could have a meeting with her. And so we sat down. I sat down with her for about a half hour or so. And I told her what my concerns were about this trespass order, and that they were never specific about why we were not allowed on the property. And when they lifted the trespass order, it was a veiled threat. Don't do it again. Do what again? There was no explanation. Did you get
paperwork saying that's been lifted?
Yes.
Okay, because you should carry a copy, just a copy with you every time you go to a meeting there, so the cops come to get you. You can show them the paperwork.
Unless there's a new trespass order. So, but Tom's not here anymore.
Okay, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. And again, Dale Norton never should have told the sheriff's deputy that we were trespassers. He had no business doing that.
Right.
The man was out of his league.
Right.
So Angela, when I told her my concerns, said, well, would you like to have a meeting with the board? And I said, well, I really don't have to. I would just like to know what the problem was. Mm-hmm. In which case I got an email from her scheduling the meeting and telling me when to show up, which was very nice. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of what I've seen Angela's mode of operation has been. She's looked at the position of Valley Electric, its finances, and she came in, and I think she has the job of cleaning up the mess that was left when Tom was gone. And that mess is, I don't just blame Tom Husted. Tom Husted was the general manager. I blame the board of directors for the mess that we're in. Mm-hmm. They lost $10 million the first year on Valley Communications. They did this TV, you could sign up for TV, and that hasn't worked right. Mm-hmm. And it just goes on and on and on. And as I see it, she has been working to fix the things that have been broken. And as I understand it from Ken Dershan, the president, current president, he was not Maurer was the original president when all this took place, when Ken said that Tom Husted was overbearing with the board of directors, and I can't imagine that the board of directors thinks they have to know a lot about electricity. They need to know what's good for the community.
Right. Yeah, you don't, a board of directors is not, the board of directors of General Motors does not know how to put a car together.
That's right.
They have to know how to get business done.
What is it the customer needs, or in this case, the member owners, and how do we do that?
Mm-hmm.
And if you read about co-ops, their main function is reasonably priced, reliable power.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line. So, after all this is said and done, when Ron and I left, by the way, when I heard that the lawyer was going to be in the meeting, I invited Ron Cordova to go with me because he was the one that got arrested.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get arrested.
Right.
I was wholesome and pure as the driven snow.
Okay, maybe at Valley Electric, but not the rest of your life.
So, after all of that, and then I see that she's arrested on a $75,000 embezzlement charge. I did not get this. I did not get the sense from all of the things she's been working on to change that this is an individual that would do what they're claiming.
First of all, with that, I looked at the pictures that you showed me. There's no way that that line being moved is $75,000. That's number one, probably $7,500, and of course the sheriff's department is going to make their puppet, the Pahrump Valley Times, blow it out of proportion so she looks bad. And also, she hasn't been the CEO for a year. And Vinny turned around and told me when anybody does a project like that, especially in her position, they have up to a year to turn around and make a deal on how she's going to pay it. So the police department jumped the gun on that again, just to make her look bad. I guess they don't like her or something. And if Angela is smart, she'd get an attorney and tear the Nye County Sheriff's Department to shreds.
So, in that regard, when I filed a complaint about the actions of the board of directors and Tom Husted on that trespass order, I filed it with the Attorney General's office of Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
It was in writing. They wrote back to me and said, this is a organization put together by a group of people who are the members, and we have no interest in anything having to do with a cooperative. Why don't you contact the PUC? So I sent the same thing to the PUC. They responded the same way. I called the sheriff's office at that time. They had no interest. I called the DA's office. They had no interest.
And this
I
is
sent
the
a letter
current
to the
sheriff.
Yeah, it has to be.
Okay.
But I didn't talk to her personally. I talked to a deputy at the sheriff's office.
Yeah, she don't talk to anybody.
So then I sent a letter to the ACLU. I have to tell you, here's what I have learned. There is no government entity that wants to get involved in the private operations of a utility that's a cooperative electric.
But the ACLU is not government.
So what the hell is the sheriff doing there on a raid when the state says this is up to the membership? If you don't like what's going on, change the board of directions, hire a lawyer, fix it yourselves. When does the law enforcement get involved? When they're telling me, personally, I got it in writing, we have no interest.
Two reasons for that. One, a lieutenant is looking to run in 2022, wants to make himself look good to the people like he's saving their money. Number two, you lock up people that have money because they're going to pay fines not to go to prison. Okay, you lock up people that have money to pay fines so they don't go to prison. It's over money, and not ours, theirs.
Well, I think this whole thing about a government entity getting involved in a private organization, it just doesn't look right. Everything I've been told, even when I talked to two other cooperatives, they told me the same thing.
Not only that, but if they say, well, the people that work in the sheriff's department are owners of that also, there's a conflict of interest. You can't use your job to overpower something you're involved in. So, So, is there anything other than, there's other things we need to talk about. Now, I didn't know that, what was it, 2008, you're telling me we were 45 million in the hole?
According to what the newspaper said.
Okay, well, that's a waste, because that information is horrible.
So here's, this whole thing about cooperatives and having a board of directors, if you look at the original intent of a co-op, it's exactly what I just stated. And we're told that we're doing great because we're only paying now 12 cents a kilowatt.
And when did that start? I thought it was...
March 1st.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I thought it was 10.9.
I was shooting for 15 cents myself.
Okay, so they actually went 12, and they also boosted the 15 to $20.
So this, it's not really 12, it's 11.95 or something. It might as well be, let's just call it 12, it's a lot easier. But this isn't a gas station, we go with whole numbers.
Right.
So when I did television here in Nye County, I interviewed the CEO for Garcane Energy. They're a Utah-based company, and coincidentally, we get their bill. So I know what the rates are.
Okay.
And this is going back maybe 8-10 years, around the time that Valley Electric raised their rates. And I also have talked to some folks over at Wheeler Power, which is in Nevada, up in the northeast corner. And I posted the rates for Wheeler Power. It's a co-op like ours. And there's a difference between generating your own power and buying power. Their rates are 7.2 cents a kilowatt. They charge $9 for the meter. At 800 kilowatts, it drops down, it begins to be charged at 5.2 cents. And then when you get to 1500 kilowatts, it drops down to about 4.7, I think it is. Now, if they can do that,
Why can't we?
That's what exactly. And why don't we send our board of directors up there, have a joint meeting with them, and find out what to do?
Right. And speaking with the raise, right, the hookup is now $20. New York is only paying 16. New York City is only paying 16 for the hookup. But the Verrazano Bridge just went up to $19 to cross it.
You know, I used to ride the Verrazano Bridge. They've got decks upon decks on that bridge.
It was a quarter when they built it. I was 9 years old.
Yeah. More
25 cents each way.
Yeah.
Then they flipped it. You know, it was $5 one way, and now it's $19, and that's for a car, not even a tractor trailer.
I wanted to look at something here. This has the whole thing to do with Valley Electric. There's a clause in the bylaws. By the way, if you folks don't think you should be reading the bylaws, boy, is it ever an eye-opener.
How did they get them?
They're online. You can go on the Valley Electric website and
read the
download
bylaws?
it. Sure, you
Okay.
can just download them.
Because a lot of people don't know how to get this stuff. That's why.
Actually, there's some good information there, and it's worth reading. So there's something in the bylaws about the elections. And it says in the elections, in the bylaws, and I'm only going to, it says almost exactly, whenever there are elections, all winners shall win by a majority of the votes cast. Unless state law or somebody else thinks differently. So the way I see it is this. There's a pyramid that's created, a chain, what do you call it when you go into a company? A pecking order. Bylaws come first. Everything else comes afterwards, right?
Oh.
So if that's the case, and it says shall, the word shall is the operative word, win by a majority of the votes cast, that means you've got to win by 50% of the votes plus one. That's majority. The board of directors announced that Pete Gazzi won by winning through a plurality, which means he got the most votes out of 5 candidates.
So they would have to do the top 2 to go to see who gets 51.
That would be what you would expect. And the second place winner was on another co-op in Washington and made a request for that and was given a 3-page letter by the lawyers for Valley Electric explaining why they don't have to do that, and they recertified Pete Gazzi as winning by a plurality rather than a majority. if you're gonna do that and play these kinds of games with the bylaws, when they rewrote the bylaws, they should have fixed that.
Right. Now, I want you to explain to the people the difference in legal terms between shall and must.
Okay, let's take a look at one thing first. The U.S. Constitution. If you go and you read the United States Constitution, there are operative, what they call operative words. And the two words that matter are shall, which means, by God, you do this or you're going to get arrested, or may, which means you can do whatever you want, as long as it's within the law. Those are the two words. You go and you start circling shall and may throughout. If you find another word other than shall and may, I will buy you dinner, but not at winery.
Mm-hmm.
Burger King.
Burger King dinner? Okay. So it's not must, it's may. Shall and may.
Shall and may. Those are the two words. Go on Nevada statutes and read them, and they've got could, should, all different words. And you think when you see should, that's may, that's shall.
Right.
It isn't. Every law we write should either have your shall or may, just like the Constitution, so we as the citizens can read it and understand how it works.
Okay, so shall means they have to do it, and may, if they feel like doing it, they're gonna.
Yeah, I would take it just exactly like that, sure.
Okay.
So, and the exact wording in our bylaws says shall win by a majority. Now, this is the second time they did that with Pete Cassie, and I complained about it. And I was told I don't know what I'm talking about. But I think the members need to talk about this at the District 1 meeting. When are they going to fix this question? Because if it says shall, we don't want any options. We want shall. On the 7th, that's correct.
Okay, sign-in starts at 5, the meeting starts at 6 on the 7th at the, and I'm going to go to both of them because I really want to see if they're talking about two different things.
By the way, I want to mention something else on the high-speed internet. We were promised fiber optic at $50 a month. Okay, if it goes to 60, I won't complain. But here's my problem. They put fiber optic in Beatty. So they're paying $50 a month for 50 megabit service, 50-50. However, here in Pahrump, where everybody lives, there's only 800 people or so in Beatty. And I don't have an axe to grind with the people there. It has to do with Valley Electric and what they did. We're paying 25 megabits, we're paying $50. Mm-hmm. So we're actually paying $2 a megabit where they're paying $1. And we in Pahrump are subsidizing the rest of the rural.
Well, let me explain why that happens. That's why you never had cable TV here. The area is too far stretched out. It would cost them ridiculous amounts of money to run a cable in the ground here. So what they do is they do one little area, and that's the customers. If you had to put enough of cable in to get to everybody here, they would never recover their money. I doubt if they're going to recover their money from this, but they're never going to recover their money.
At the last annual meeting, I said to Tom Husted, does this mean that you're going to give a rebate to those of us who are paying twice as much for half the service?
Hold on, what do you think he
and
got
his answer
for?
His answer, yeah, his answer was no, and that was the end of the discussion, right then and there. And that was in public, in front of everybody.
Yeah, he don't care.
Well, he's gone now. So, and I think Angela is taking a step to try and make things right with the people who have been paying twice the rate than